for some fight night.
And if you ain't paying attention, you're gonna sleep on me and I'm gonna wake you up.
All right, AJ. So when you sent in the sleepers, and I was like, okay, let me do a little bit of research, let me do a little bit of studying. I thought it was interesting that you picked this sleeper specifically, not because these dudes can't bring it, not because this isn't going to be a banger, just because of all the people down there. I was like, this is an intriguing matchup, just a very intriguing matchup. So let's talk about it a little bit, brother. You picked this week Jai Herbert versus Kyle Nelson, right? And this is going to be an interesting matchup because if you look at that, you have a differentiation, between weight classes, right? You have a dude who's primarily been in a lightweight in Jai Herbert versus a dude featherweight, lightweight, mix them up a little bit. So Canadian versus an Englishman. But let's look at the last fight, right? Billy Quarantillo versus Kyle Nelson. How did the fight end? TKO, right cross. That was a year and 10 months ago, brother. So it's been a long layoff for my man. But he did have a big win over Polo Reyes, lost to Matt Sales, lost to Diego Fajeda, and then this was pre-UFC stuff right here. Ilia Topuria, brother. Can we not forget that this man Jai Herbert was inches away from defeating Ilia Topuria in what would have been a most incredible upset, right? But he got knocked out. A win against Kama Worthy, KO, so we know how formidable he is in terms of a striker, but a loss to Renato Moicano, a loss to Francisco Trinaldo, and then this was when he was the champion over there at Cage Warriors. Talk to me, brother. What is intriguing about this matchup specifically to you?
Well, Derek, so last week for my sleeper, had a bit of a snoozer. So honestly, when I was looking at all these fights, I'm like, okay, who's going to be the guys who walk in and live by the sword and die by the sword? Whether that sword is a knockout, whether that sword is a submission, that's exactly what this fight is to me, man. Both Jai Herbert, the Black Country Banger, as well as Kyle the Monster Nelson, man. These dudes both are in it for the finish. Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter if they get knocked out. Like you said, even in the Ilia Topuria fight, inches away. Jai Herbert was inches away from winning. Ends up right cross, big knockout coming from Ilia Topuria. Is what it is, but that's why I like Jai Herbert, because he's willing to leave everything out there. And the same thing for Kyle Nelson. Now, a little bit more of Kyle Nelson desperately needs this win. You know, he's fighting in London, like he's in his home court right now. You got to show up when you're performing for your homies. Now adds a little bit of pressure, adds a little bit more, and Jai Herbert is very not meticulous, but like calculated. Like homeboy is very smart in the fight game, and what's going to make it even more of an interesting fight is the fact that both of them, they've had a loss in their last fight, and they're looking to not necessarily make a name, but continue building up the legacy that is their own fight career. And that's what makes me a little excited for this one. There's a lot of heat behind it, like fighter-wise, but also stylistically, we're probably seeing a knockout or a finish right here. Do you agree or see something different?
No, I absolutely agree. When you bring these two guys together right here, some fireworks is going to be taking place. But I thought it was interesting. I just pulled it up on the screen. Just tell me what you think of this, man. First off, I like Jai Herbert in this matchup, personally, right? You don't have to give your pick, but I like Jai Herbert. One of the reasons why is look at that reach difference. 77 inches versus 71 inches, right? So as long as he can keep it on the feet, as long as he can keep it standing, he's going to be able to pick this man apart at range all day. But this is what's interesting to me. A lot of people are not feeling any motivation for Kyle Nelson here. 7% to 93%. And look at the methodology. KO here. So they're saying Nelson either knocks him out or he barely decisions him. Everybody here is saying, yeah, they're decisioning. If it's a Herbert win, he's going to knock his ass out. Maybe a decision, maybe a submission. But when I see stuff like that, because I like to take a look at those things from time to time, man, how much do you read into those numbers?
Not really much, especially on like a Tapology or something like that. I feel like it's a lot of I was going to say a lot of the casuals out there, but the casuals ain't filling those things out. So those are some of the hardcores that are genuinely like in it. So maybe I need to take a little bit more.
Well, you could be a hardcore enthusiast and fill out a Tapology sheet and still be a fucking casual, right? But, you know what I mean? Sometimes you pick them just because you're like, oh, that's the dude who everyone thinks is going to win, so I'm going to pick him too. We've seen some massive upsets, bro, where you look at the Tapology and it's like 90 to 10% and skewed of one dude, and the 10% dude just clearly outhandled the other guy. So just something to take into consideration. Now, folks, my sleeper is going to be a little along the lines of AJ's sleeper last week. So I'm going to apologize in advance. But this is a good sleeper because you need to watch out for the future of this man. So we have Makwan Amirkhani versus JSP, Jonathan Pearce. So Mr. Finland, man, it's been a rough go for my man. Look at that. After that big win that he had against Danny Henry, Anaconda choke, right? He loses 3 in a row. Edson Barbosa, Kamuela Kirk, and Lerone Murphy. Now, these are all tough, formidable guys. But then how does he get another win? Anaconda choke on Mike Grundy. That's all you need to know right there. If you could fight one of the best wrestlers in the division right now, you can out-handle the man, you can choke the man, and you can sleep the man. That is what you need to be able to get your mojo back. Because let's not forget, Mr. Finland himself, Makwan Amirkhani, all the hype, he turned into a kickboxer, man. He abandoned the wrestling. That's what he was known for. Turned into a kickboxer, lost a bunch of fights, went back to the wrestling. What do you know? You get a win on the board. But this is much more important. The number one thing that has really been plaguing a Makwan Amirkhani has not been the wrestling, it's not been the kickboxing, it's been the cardio. It's been getting put in these grappling situations, and then by rounds 2, beginning of round 3, you have nothing left. So when we find ourselves in a situation against a JSP, that's why this is going to be a fun fight, because Amirkhani is going to have to fight those demons, because JSP is going to drag him into deep waters. This is a dude right here, even though he has so after his Contender Series win, he loses the UFC debut to Joe Lozon. Now, you're a UFC debutant, and you have to fight literally a Joe Lozon. I mean, not really that fair, right? But yeah, you got TKO, ground and pounded. That's how I knew Joe Lozon was still in good form. But look at these last 3 wins. Kai Kamaka III, ground and pound TKO. Omar Morales, rear naked choke submission. I was there. That was UFC 266. And when I saw that in real time, I was amazed. And then lastly, Christian Rodriguez, which was a late kind of replacement bout, but Christian Rodriguez got good hands, man. So he was able to definitely mitigate that and get the big decision win. So the thing that you got to take into consideration here, 5'10", 6 foot, 71.5-inch reach for JSP, 72 for Makwan Amirkhani. On the feet, it's going to be interesting to see what JSP can do, and can he handle the chops of a Makwan Amirkhani. But when it comes to the ground, both of these dudes are wrestlers. Who's going to be the better wrestler that night? I have a feeling it's going to be JSP personally, because I think he's the truth. I think he's the future and the real deal. So it's going to be a fun sleeper because of the prospect, because you're seeing one of these stars of the future right now before they become that star. But in terms of if it could be a little bit of a snoozer, I apologize in advance. AJ, what do you make of the sleeper, brother?
I actually don't think this one's going to be a snoozer, Derek. I do think when we have the 2 chops of these guys on the ground wrestling, we're going to see another stand-up battle. I mean, well, maybe not. I mean, anything can happen. That's usually the case. But if I'm Makwan Amirkhani, I'm very worried about the gas tank of JSP, because this dude pushes it the entire fight. He doesn't let off, and it's one of those things. Nobody ever wants to have the feeling of what Herbert Burns had in his last fight, and it's a scary thing, man. And that's what I think Makwan Amirkhani has to worry about, fighting somebody like JSP.
Absolutely. And I will just say, man, because that's it for the sleepers right there. You folks, you guys are some savages, man. The comments that we've been getting on that Herbert Burns video, people have been a little ruthless on my man. And even that I'm getting outside of that, like on Twitter and stuff like that, where people are talking about it, I'm just like, yo, everybody is screaming, Herbert Burns quit, fake knee brace, da-da-da-da-da. And I'm just like, man, like, I get it. And it's a terrible look. We talked about it. We have a whole video on it. It's a terrible look, but you don't really know. The man has had prior knee surgeries. When you're squeezing the life out of a triangle, you can injure your knee. But yeah, everyone is just screaming like, how dare you forgive this man and give him a pass for quitting, da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, you guys are savages, bro. But we love you, so keep commenting, man. We appreciate it. So